Hi kids, take a seat. Today's lesson, like basically any other history lesson, is about some weirdo with too much money. You've probably heard a lot about the royal families all over the world, and yet I bet you haven't heard enough about them. Let's talk about the relatively unknown story of just another white guy. Former Lord and Marquis William John Cavendish Scott Bentinck, Lord Lieutenant of Nottinghamshire and 5th Duke of Portland. God, that is a mouthful. His life was honestly pretty uneventful for a while. He was born in London, homeschooled, served in the army, and then traveled throughout Europe. At this point in his life, there are no records of any drama or scandals of any kind. If people were spices, this guy would be flour. His dad, the 4th Duke of Portland, died a couple weeks after John's 30th birthday. Naturally, this means it's John's time to shine as the next duke. He didn't really care for politics though, indicated by him not even taking the oath for a seat in the House of Lords for 3 full years. What was he doing with the free time and money of royalty? He dumped it all into his home. First, he built huge walls around his estate. Next, it was time to work on the house. Now you might think, after hiring genuinely thousands of workers and investing insane sums into the house, it would be the most beautiful mansion in the world. But I wouldn't make a video about that, would I? All the rooms were completely empty, as in literally empty, and not just rich people empty. Painted pink, and by the end of his life, in a state of disrepair, except for a few sparsely furnitured rooms he actually lived in. Wait, where did the money go then? Good question, Jason. Well, he constructed an elaborate underground maze below the estate. The tunnels alone were around 24 kilometers long, 15 miles for all the #Imperial boys. Now to visualize how stupidly much that is, it would take around 5 hours for an average person to walk through every tunnel. That's around 30 full dumps. The tunnels are longer than 135,771 medium-sized bananas, or 29 Burj Khalifas, the tallest building in the world. Just as a reference, the Burj Khalifa is as tall as 3,622 extra-long bananas, which equate to 1.5 small bananas, of course. Where was I? These networks included multiple chambers, a vast billiard room, an observatory, a library, tunnels to all the other buildings on the grounds, and even a huge ballroom with a hydraulic lift that could bring up to 20 people from the surface down here at a time. Oh, have I mentioned that the whole underground complex was also painted fully pink? Well, let's finally talk about the madman responsible. My guy here was probably the most introverted dude in history. He never once invited anyone into his home, and didn't want to meet people outside of his home either. Neither the ballroom nor an insanely huge riding house he constructed on the grounds were ever used. Not even his employees were allowed to as much as acknowledge him. One worker once tipped his hat to him and was dismissed off his property. That sick fuck deserved it. Even when he needed medical attention, and he needed lots of it throughout his life, he didn't let a doctor in. I'm sure some of you can actually relate with him on this though, you disgusting introverts. People rumored that he was disfigured or constantly having wild orgies, though if you couldn't tell by now, he never had a single lady over, and he looked perfectly normal. Well, not so sure about perfectly normal to be honest, since he basically cosplayed as a vampire whenever he went outside. At night, he was mostly going out with a single lantern guy, walking 40 yards or 160 extra long bananas in front of him. And during the day, he was always wearing 2 overcoats, a tall hat, a high collar, and an umbrella to hide behind. This guy looks like he would have a floating exclamation mark above his head, and he would give you a potion if you escorted him to the marketplace. This was honestly kind of his life, with no real evidence of any children or more crazy stories, until he died with the age of 79. Well, usually this would be the end of the video, but luckily, him dying did not stop the amount of weirdness in his life. 20 years after his death, a woman, Anna Maria Druce, claimed that John was actually living a double life as her father-in-law before faking the death of his fake life 15 years before his actual death in order to return to his royal life. Did that make sense? This whole endeavor is known as the Druce case, named after the dude he apparently was, Thomas Charles Druce. He said that her son is now entitled to the estate. By the way, the son was born before he married her mother, so if it truly was John Bentinck, the son wouldn't be entitled either way. Anyways, after lots of legal battles and multiple attempts to open the coffin to prove it was empty, she was placed in an asylum. Turns out, the son of Druce's second marriage actually claims he saw his father die. He was later sued by the Druce family for that claim, who picked up the case after the institutionalization of Anna Maria. There was evidence of a fake burial given given by multiple sources, mainly by Robert Caldwell. After 10 long years of legal proceedings, they finally had permission to open the grave on December 30th, 1907. Well, turns out they desecrated a corpse for no reason, since Druce's body was in fact real, intact, and identified. The multiple sources were charged with perjury, which is lying under oath, and our main source trust me dude, Robert Caldwell, was sent into an asylum and died there just a few years later. This marks the actual end of the story for today, as Bentinck could rest in peace now, and Druce could rest in not so peace, knowing that his body got some fresh air and his daughter-in-law died in an insane asylum. Happy times. Also, a little nugget of John Bentinck lore I couldn't really fit into the video is that he demanded a chicken roasting every hour of the day. What a legend. Alright, love you. Yes, you specifically. See you next time, and bye.